Welcome to the Powderhorn Podcast, part of the Okayest Podcast Network, where host Jared Gomez covers everything that goes bang. From grandpa's lever action to cutting-edge tactical gear, this is your go-to for sharpening skills, building confidence, and geeking out on the rich past and bold future of shooting sports.
Well, everyone, we are back again. Man, we are inching towards Christmas, and I am Jared, your host of the Powderhorn Podcast, and one of the guys behind the scenes here at Okayest Shooter. You'll have to forgive my co-host, Tim. He was Christmas shopping with his family, so we're kind of doing an off-the-hip episode with, someone who, I don't even think me and you got off on the best foot, I think the first time we met, but Craig Myers is a journeyman, I'll say influencer and shooter. Craig, just say hello to everyone. Give them a little bit of background on, who you are, what you do. And I'm not going to say you're an Okayest shooter. I think you're a pretty good shooter, but we'll see if we can't find some Okayest qualities in that, those pants pockets and shirt pockets of yours.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. I consider myself a mediocre shooter at best, but no, how I got into this is all happenstance. I was, wanted to be a better shooter, reached out to a local range, well-known range down in Lawrence, started taking some classes, and ended up meeting a guy named Brian Miller. He's a media marketing dude, and they needed an extra hand for a commercial they were shooting. Got drug into it, and, he started using me more, utilizing me more for some of his social media content. So I don't have a huge following on Instagram or anything like that, but that gets me in that limelight. And then from taking pistol lessons and rifle lessons, I decided, hey, my instructor's like, why don't you look at competitive shooting? So I've been giving USPSA a pretty hard go this year. So that's kind of high level.
So Brian Miller, for you guys that are out there, he's a guy who's behind the scenes a lot, and I think it's neat when you interact with someone and you become friends with them, and they drag you along, so to speak. And I think Brian's kind of done that. You'll see, I've seen Craig pop up in ads for Henry and a lot of the companies that Brian works with. Now, one of the things the dynamic of you two is you are both on polar opposites of the human spectrum, and we're not calling you a short or a wee person by any means, Craig, but I'm 5'6", and me and you are pretty similar in build. But we have Brian Miller, who's a gargantuan of a human.
It looks like the movie Twins when we're together. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And Brian is one of the nicest guys out there. He's got a heart of gold and a work ethic. So knowing what I know about you now and, the time that me and you have kind of, palled around together and had chit chats, I get why you two hit it off so well and you guys work together so well. So, what's it like almost being like dragged into the gun industry by, I'll say Brian's a little bit of a heavy hitter. He's got some pull in places, and I feel like he drug you along. And what's that adventure been like?
It's been fun. I mean, from somebody who literally had zero social media content going into this, like I had no Facebook, no Instagram. I had nothing. Didn't really care anything about it. But, working with him and being out there, Brian's like, he's like, you probably should make an account. I can push some followers. We can do some collabs and stuff like that. So that aspect's been pretty cool. I mean, obviously still don't have a lot of followers. I think last time I checked, I had like 610 followers on Instagram. But that's kind of the benefit, is not having thousands of followers. You kind of get to be more honest with things. I guess you're not like a shill is what a lot of people call it. So I get to say what I want, not have any, as of right now, any kind of repercussions. Get to do honest reviews on things, but that aspect's fun. Learning cameras and how to take photos and videos and stuff like that, how to be a model, I guess you would call it. But it's been fun, the experience, getting,
just hearing you say model.
Yeah.
Just hearing you say model, like, is that what he is? Is that?
Yeah. I can do blue steel really well.
The Craig Myers school for people who want to shoot good and do other stuff good too. Like Cerakote. Man, I think today in social media, we put this huge emphasis on audience and followers. And I mean, even me here at Okayest Shooter, we don't have like the biggest following, but our reach, because of who we are friends with in the industry, it gives us a bigger audience. So you go to a page and like you say, you're like, oh, I have 600 followers. But if you're collaborating with brands like Henry and Victos and some of the brands I see you collaborating with, no, your reach is in the hundreds of thousands. And I think we kind of do the same thing here where some of our industry relationships, and I think that speaks volumes to, what you're doing is that, the companies that you're working with are big. I mean, I see you in just as many Henry photos as I see Garantham, which I think is cool. So for a guy who, I'm humble, Craig, I have no followers, you're representing a brand that's, often represented by one of the biggest names in the industry. So, how does that make you feel?
It's cool. I mean, it's cool to be at work, and then some of your buddies walk up and be like, "Dude, is this you?" Like that's how half the people at work found out that I was doing this kind of stuff. Is it was Ranger Point. It was like a Ranger Point commercial on Actually, it was Sonoran Desert Institute. They saw me on an ad. They're like, "Dude, is that you?" I was like, "Yep." Sure enough, it is. And then Ranger Point ads and like their email ads and stuff like that. So I get hit up all the time at work. So yeah, it's actually kind of cool, to have never met these high level influencers, but kind of be on the same pages with them. That aspect's pretty neat. That part's been a lot of fun. But the relationships that you build with these entities like Victos and stuff like that, it's more personable in my opinion.
I think you have a genuine, aspect to it where I still, people know I work in the industry, and there's people that just reach out to every company they can, and they don't really, I'm not saying they don't care about the product, but I think they're more interested in like getting the sponsorship or getting the free product, where I see some of, like, I'll say micro influencers, the Gundys are happening, and that's a term that's being thrown around, but I just see guys that are just, they're amped to work with companies that they've always wanted to work with. And that's how I feel about Moultrie. Me, I'm not, this isn't a hunting show, but I've been a big fan of Moultrie. And so I've had opportunities to work with them with, different projects. So to see you kind of curate who you're working with and pick brands that you're passionate about, that you can be honest about, I think you're real candid a lot of times about products. If it sucks, it sucks. Or if it's great, you're like, man, I really love this. So it's refreshing to see some guys that are just doing it.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because I literally watched Ben Stoker on his YouTube channel. He was literally talking about pretty much the same thing about these USPSA shooters coming up, and they're so adamant about wanting a sponsorship. They just take it. They don't care if the product's good or not. They're just chasing that, that sponsorship. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
It's man, the influencer thing is still, it's still a thing, and I get like, I'll call it like, review fatigue, where everyone does like reviews on, do a review for a product. There's not like the brand loyalty. They're like, oh, I'm doing a review because I want to do a review. I want my story featured, versus, the people that are just diehard. They're like, no, I love these products. I will use them, forever. I'm a Glock shooter. Me and you have had conversations, and I'm always like, yeah, Gen 2 Glocks aren't anything exciting, but they kind of work, ergonomics are, but, so's that Tennessee 6 that does dishes and cooks home, good meals, versus that New York City 10.
Yeah. I mean, I bought a Glock. I got a 45. I'm going to start shooting that in carry optics here in a little while. So, I'm not impartial to them.
It's, for competition, you guys, you have all these classes, and I think it's neat that you get to curate guns for every class that, you're kind of into. So even if it's, IPSC, IDPA, even like guys that do like the CMP national matches where they're doing like the goofy 1911 stances, I think that competition shooters, and they get to really kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. So, 3 guns that you compete with, and, what's the thing about each gun that you're just like, when you get to the line and you're just like, listen here, you dumb piece of junk, you better work. So what are the 3 guns you like to compete with the most? And then what's the biggest gripe about each one?
And honestly, hands down, my favorite, and you've made fun of me about this in the past, but I don't have it with me. But obviously, this gun's clear. I've checked it, but it's the 2011 platform. That's probably my favorite platform to shoot. The Mac 9DS comp. I love shooting that gun. But as we've had plenty of discussions about, like, that is the most finicky pistol I've ever shot in my life, and so much so that like this when the client, you're get to shoot really well and everything's just going perfect, and all of a sudden it just falls flat on its face, and like you just murder a classifier because the gun jammed and it's not wanting to feed right or it's not wanting to extract right, and then you're over in the pit over there trying to pour put enough lube on a thing that you want to have sex with it. I mean, it's just this aggravating, man. But when they run great, and it's a fantastic shooting platform. It's just like I said, the discussions I have, they can tweak some things and get some things right. And it's not just, the Mac I mean, heck, this gun's done the same thing. I've had this gun jam. It just happens. It's sad that you pay this amount of money for something like this and it does it, but.
So I've had the benefit because I did some motorsport stuff. I raced go-karts with my daughter even. You'd find like the premier engine builder in the country. And you buy an engine from them, and it's a reliable engine, but once they start getting in there and they tweaking around things, it can blow because you held RPMs you went into a corner where you should have lifted, but you're like, no, I'm going to hammer down and I'm just going to like take it to the rev limiter, and then that engine blows. So the only people in the gun world that I think have it worse than 6.5 Creedmoor shooters are 2011 owners.
Oh, yeah.
In a general sense. I used to think the MP5 subreddit was like the darkest place on earth, and then the 2011 subreddit. And because we have 2011s from like, entry level companies like EAA, mid-tier companies like, Mac and Springfield. And then you have these, we'll say semi-custom shops like Staccato, even STI, and then super high end, Nighthawks. I still see people at every level having some kind of issue with those guns. And that's where I think, today I was like, thinking about a topic with you, and I was like, sometimes, Craig, it is the gun. It's not you, man. Like, you're a great shooter, but that gun, every now and again, a gun will just sink its teeth into you and not let go. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the Mac. Like, I love shooting it so much. I'd love to get the thing right, because if you get it right, it runs straight. And it's funny you bring that up, because literally there's a group chat with all my USPSA buddies that I usually try to squad with, and they're literally bringing that up. They're like, dude, if you could get a gun in your hand that would run, that is the only thing holding you back from being a GM, is getting a reliable gun to shoot with. So yeah, it stinks, but like I said, when they run, that's the fun part of it. It's aggravating at times, but I think at some point in time, it's kind of good. It gets you in the right headspace and mindset that it's not always going to go right. It's like real world stuff. It's not always going to go right. It's not always going to go perfect. But, are you in the right mindset to, clear the weapon and get it back up and running? So, competitively wise, it stinks, but practical part of it, that is something that people need to practice, and being able to do that at a high level is a good thing.
It's, when I hear you tell the stories, and that's even when I was thinking about like having you on and talking about it, is we're always told it's not the gun, it's you. It's not the ammo, it's you. It's your grip, it's your trigger pull, it's your stance, it's your draw stroke. And then you meet a guy who is as competent of a shooter as you, and you're no Ben Stoker, but
of course, yeah, 100%.
But it's gotta be a sweet, it's gotta be a glass of the sweetest tea you've ever drank, when you actually can sit there and be like, no, man, I'm doing everything right. Sometimes it is the gun.
Yeah.
And, coming to the realization that, hey, you can't always fix it. And it happens, 2011s, it happens with people at the top end of the tiers all the way down to the bottoms. I've taken classes before. I'm not a big competition shooter, but I've been at classes where I've literally taken Glock mags and thrown them into the woods because for whatever reason they were inducing malfunctions. And instead of trying to like fix it, you're just like, no, it is the magazine. This magazine sucks. It's broken. And I've seen instructors take people's guns and be like, dude, if you want to finish this class or this competition, change guns, whatever you brought. So having been on that, what's that, it's frustrating, but does it make you feel better sometimes when you're doing it right, and it's just this mechanical piece of plastic and metal that someone who's probably not even a shooter assembled for you, and you're just like, man, it wasn't me. Like, can you sleep well knowing that?
Well, it makes me say I'm pretty hard on myself, but what makes me accept it and feel better about it actually being the gun is when other people are saying that. I don't like making excuses, because that's what a lot of people do. I mean, at the end of the day, like what happens, it happens, but when you have other people in your squad that notice it and they're like, dude, it is the gun, they're confirming your bias, right? Your shooting's like, is it? And then when you get done, like, dude, if that gun would run right, so that confirmation bias is really good. And so it does make you sleep a little better when everyone else is saying it, and they're kind of rooting for you. Like, like it was actually this gun right here, brand new out of the box, didn't want to run. And, the dudes in my squad that are, they don't read out of context, but when they want to see someone perform and they know they can and they can execute it, like they get behind you. Hey, dude, here's a recoil spring. Here's this. They start giving you parts to try and make the gun because they want to see it work and they want to see you shoot. So, that's the pretty cool. That's a good aspect of it.
It's refreshing to hear that in competition where like your competitors, your teammates, or even other guys that are out there shooting. It's almost sometimes unique to the shooting sports. I did see it some, when, I was racing go-karts and even in like jujitsu and even wrestling, every now and again you'd have like a fellow teammate or another competitor be like, hey man, this guy's really susceptible to an ankle pick. Go for an outside ankle pick. Knowing damn well that you're going to wrestle that guy or have a match against that guy and he's going to smash you because he knows you have a shitty ankle pick. So to hear guys get on the line and tinker with guns and help you out is refreshing.
Well, and like to add what you're saying about, I know you're big into jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, but that's the other aspect of it I think that's missed. It's like a true competitor, a true teammate. We want a level playing field because I can't prove that I'm better than you. If you're operating below my standards, if your equipment is functioning just like mine is, if your stage plan is the same thing, that's how we can truly differentiate who's truly skilled and who's not. The dudes that are in my squad, I want everything. I want all their stuff to function 100% because I want to see where I stack up against them.
I think, years ago when I did kind of compete, I did a lot of the GSSF matches. And I think that's like, when we were shooting like stock Glock classes, I think the only thing we could do was like metal sights, but nothing inside the gun, no extended magazine releases, stock triggers. You could run like the plastic Glock sights. So those matches to me were super fun because it came down to mechanics of the draw stroke and then how fast you could run the gun.
Yep.
And, Glock being a mediocre competition platform until you really kind of get in there and start, fiddling around, putting in, trigger springs and trigger bars and all that. So I think that was fun. It was like a spec class where everyone showed up with the same gun and then you just had to run it. And seeing even like some of the pros back in the day do that, like some of the bigger grandmaster shooters do that. And you're like, okay, well, it isn't the gun. It's me. I suck. Like,
you
see some of the bigger names in the industry just run it and you're like, dang. Okay, yes, the Glock 19 does not make the shooter. I just suck. I'm not bad, but I'm not good. So,
yep, that's a fact.
So looking at 2026, and you've competed with a few different guns. What's something you want to see manufacturer come out with to kind of tailor it to your style of shooting on the competition, side of things?
I'd say more reliable 2011 platform, but I think one of the biggest things on the market, and this about me is, and I'm going to shout out to him, is Matthew at MJD Solutions. He's the only dude that I know of that makes a truly left-handed grip module for a 2011 platform. The mag release and all that. So that was kind of like my Achilles heel. Not saying that's something I can't train or shoot around, but having that mag release on the left side of the pistol just sucked. So there aren't really any manufacturers that make an aluminum grip module left-handed. It's always a righty stuff. Something like that would be huge for we lefties, we always get the hate. Even from Safariland. I think I told you about that story.
Yeah, no, I'm left eye dominant. I grew up left-handed. I broke my arm in kindergarten, so my arm was in a cast for about 11 months. So I had to force myself to do a lot of things right-handed. Thankfully, I can shoot pretty well right-handed, even pistols, but rifles, bolt guns, I usually do all left-handed. So I get that. And it's, the 2011 platform, 1911 platform in general isn't really, tailored to Southpaws. Although, there are some workarounds. It is nice to see MJD. Yeah. I wish we would get a 2011 that uses a true 9mm magazine to kind of make that grip a little bit better. Yeah. And, something that uses a true ambi mag release would be cool. So MJD, thank you guys for, taking care of people and making an awesome product. And, I think they've got some amazing machining. Some of the grip textures, I'm like, man, my soft, supple hands can't shoot that thing, but there are some that feel really good in the hand.
Like this, I got the sandpaper grip on that one, and Matt is actually one of my sponsors. Now, I'm not just saying that because he is, but he does make it's a good grip. There's very few polymer grips that you can put your hands around that feel about as rigid as aluminum one, but his they're legit. I like them.
It's cool that there's these super high end companies. Don't get me wrong. There's like 2011 manufacturers that charge thousands of dollars for their guns. And, you look at the gun and you're like, why does your grip module suck? Like, why isn't it? And it's cool to see an aftermarket company like MJD. I think even in bolt action rifles, Macmillan stocks, Remington, any of the bolt gun manufacturers, Bagara, all of them, their stocks have always been like, meh. But then, HS Precision, Macmillan, Manners, they pop in and they're like doing amazing things. And then when the chassis thing came out, I still don't think a factory chassis is as good as, something from Cadex Defense or, so it's always cool to see companies innovate around something like that. So MJD is definitely, they've got some cool things going on, and lasers and, 3 all the way up to 5-axis machines are making people make things that are just bonkers. The grip textures are through the roof now. Like, they're just cool. I think a true ambi gun. I had high hopes for the GTO from SIG, and I got to handle one for the first time. I think it was like one you passed on, and I was like, dang, they could have done so much better with the grip module on that one even.
The gun, I don't know. To me, at the end of the day, the number one reason why you want to get a gun is the way it looks. People can hate on me want to. I own a SIG. I carry a SIG. I carry a 365. So I'm not, like a brand hater, but the gun just doesn't look good to me. I just don't like the way it looks. The lines, they
missed the mark on it.
Yeah.
With their enhanced 1911s that came out, I was like, ooh, maybe. I do like external extractors. They're more reliable, easier to maintain than the internal, bow extractors like you would find in a standard, 70 series 1911. But the GTO using the P320 magazine, I thought they could have shaved a little bit more off the grip module. And then, it's always easy to add material to make it fit more people's hands, but I don't have the biggest hands on earth. So I always am struggling to find, 2011s and certain guns where I'm like, man, I can eat that grip. Glocks are the same way. Gen 2 Glocks were the peak of Glocks for me because you could just really get on them.
Yeah.
So for competing this year, where are you usually competing at?
I typically go between Belton Gun Club or Clinton House because Spartanburg, USPSA, they hold their matches there. I got some buddies that run the Asheville Practical Shooters Association, so I'll travel up there and shoot some. And then we got a state level match, state championship match in March of this next year that'll be held at Belton.
Man, how come no tactical games for you?
I've done. Let me. Yeah. I've not done a full tactical games. I've done some of the skirmishes that they used to have back in the day before they shut them down. It's a good platform, but honestly, what drove me away from it is people can hate on me. Me. I work out, but the CrossFit people, man, it's a different breed. I know I'm probably gonna catch hate for it, but it's just nothing but a bunch of CrossFitters for the most part, and like the dynamic of people that are there is just it's different. I don't know how to explain it unless you've been to one. It's just a different type of people. I'm not saying they're terrible or bad. Like they're good people, but it's a different dynamic.
The only people crazier, I think, than high school and collegiate wrestlers are CrossFitters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no tactical games, what's maybe a shooting discipline that you've not gotten into that you might want to get into? Could we see cowboy action shooting Craig Myers or, see you do like some of the Mammoth sniper challenges?
Now, I had a buddy of mine. We talked about doing the Mammoth. The deal with the Mammoth, as I'd love it. Like that's like a really challenging shoot, and I want to do it. But at this time, I'm not a good long range dude, nor do I have a rifle for long range. I definitely like long range stuff. That's the thing. Like I do PCSL. I shoot that from time to time. The majority of it's USPSA. So that was kind of like what we were talking about in the beginnings. Like if I built a rifle, because the Mammoth does have a pistol aspect to it. So scoring wise, me being an avid pistol shooter, that could potentially help us on the pistol side of the house because I'm not a PRS dude. I like to get into it, but that's just a whole nother hobby. So right now,
Yeah, there's the gun world's an onion pedal. It's onions. You can peel back layers, and some of the events and some of the shooting disciplines, PSL matches are. I love seeing the way guys dial on their rifles and they know they're dope. I'm not a big group shooter. I never have been a big group shooter. I've always been a first round hit kind of guy. If I can make a first round hit on the target that I need to with cold bore data, I think that's super cool because I'm a hunter. In the back end, I'm a hunter. Guys that I have this thing still, and one day I'm going to get beat up for it. But I see people shoot targets, and they'll have like their little 2-inch circle, and it'll be like the tightest group, but it'll be like 2 inches right and 3 inches low of like where we should be aiming. And I'm like, man, that's the tightest miss I've ever seen in my entire life. And so that's I say that all the time. I see groups. There's the guy that just set the bench rest world record, which is insane. I don't know his group off the top of my head, but it's like this insane machine. But literally the group was like a .246, shot group of, bullets, but it was like 4 inches away from the bullseye, the 10 ring on the target. And I'm like, that's the greatest misses ever.
Yeah.
Like he didn't hit what he was aiming at one time, but he did it more accurate than anyone I've ever seen. So I always kind of give, that's my thing. I always give people shit about that where I'm like, yeah, you can shoot it like a quarter MOA group, but you missed the 10 ring every time. You missed the 1 inch square on the bench rest target.
Yeah. I was, I got a not entirely just like that, but for my aspect of shooting, one of my best friends, Matt, former SF dude, definitely one of my, most memorable mentors. The dude's taught me all kind of stuff, but we were running a stress drill, and we had an IPSC 25 yards with the hostage swinger, and we had these barrels lined up, and so it was a team drill, and you're carrying a sandbag and a water jug, and you both had to run together, and one was a designated first shooter, and you had to hit that swinger 5 times. Well, as your forearms are burnt out and you're trying to hit that swinger, your buddy is still carrying all that junk around. So if he drops the stuff, you have to stop and move further back. Obviously, if you can't hit the swinger, he's still got to embrace the suck. And so we're running through there, and I'll never forget this. And I'm only saying this because you brought up the missing. Is we go there, he shoots first. Of course, boom, 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 boom. He's done. I roll around, and he has to pick up the weight. And I shoot, and I hit. And then I hit, and then I miss, and I miss, and I miss, and I miss. And as he's running by with all that 100 pounds of gear, he goes, "Hey, Craig, you can't miss any faster." So I'll never forget that. So that's what a tendency people have is, when they miss, they start speeding up and they miss even more. And I hate the term slow down to get your grip because I think it's stupid because slow is slow. I don't care what people say, but yeah, that being cognizant of what you're doing and why you're doing it. But yeah, I'll never forget that, you can't miss any faster kind of thing. So yeah, I totally get that, John.
I always hear, there was always the balance of speed and accuracy when people said that. But man, there's sometimes where you just got to get rounds downrange and, hope for the best. And hey, maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was the gun.
No, that was 100% me. And if Matt hears this, he'll definitely say he's like, dude, no,
You're like, it's like there's no doubt it was me. I was slapping triggers, beating on things. It's the way it goes. Christmas is coming, and last week Tim and I we kind of went through our gift guide. What to get people for gun guys, and I think one of the most unique gift ideas we had was just buying random ammo for someone in your life, Craig. So if you don't know what gun someone owns, just buy them a random box of ammo. So I think for you, like I would probably get you. I would probably be like, I'm gonna just get Craig a box of 300 PRC. because then you have to buy a 300 PRC. You know, you got the
Correct.
ammo.
Yeah.
I think what's cool about you, you're well versed. You deal with like Ranger Point Precision, Victos gear. So, you know, what are some simple stocking stuffer ideas for like the uninitiated, like the spouse or the girlfriend or even family member? Like, what are 3 things you'd shout out and be like, hey, if you have a gun person in your life, this is what I would get them, not knowing, you know, knowing you're not a gun person.
Yeah, I think honestly, don't get gun cleaning kits. That's if you're an avid shooter and you really run a gun, you don't clean it. Like people who clean their guns all the time, they can hate me if they want to. You're not shooting your gun like you're supposed to. Like us, but like CR123s, those batteries are put those in the stocking stuffer because you're always going with those on like weapon lights or optics or something like that. Obviously, ammo is a great thing. Really not. I mean, not a ton of stuff, but yeah, ammo, batteries, optic batteries, like, figure out what kind of optic they have on their weapon or ask them, like, dude's going to forget if the wife asks it, hey, what batteries in your 507 comp? He's going to tell you and forget that he ever said anything about it. So yeah, batteries will be a big deal too. I think that'd be beneficial.
And
But
you know, if you're
that's the
going to
only
do
kind of
that,
thing I
like
think of.
get quality lithiums. I always say, like, if you're going to get batteries, get like quality lithium ones, whether Energizer, Duracell, 2032, CR123s. Cleaning stuff, one thing, I burn through nitro gloves like crazy. Like,
Yeah.
and you just got
Yeah.
a smoker. And
Yep.
you're gonna find out the more you're dealing with meat, you're gonna go through like 10 pairs of nitro gloves. You're gonna like season your meat, you're gonna throw them away. And then even when you go out and start cleaning guns, you're gonna, if you do Cerakote like you do, so I wouldn't be upset if I had like, a couple packages of nitro gloves. I really, they're a little more expensive, but I got some from Home Depot. They're like dual layer and I love those things. The
What thickness are they?
HDX Home Depot ones. They're I don't know, they're dual layer. They're black and orange.
Okay.
They're thick, but they sell them in like almost like little baby white packs where you pop the little plastic top, you could pull them out.
Sweet.
But the Home Depot HDX dual layer nitro gloves are sweet. I'll throw that product out there. They will not be
I
upset
just get mine on
if
Amazon.
your spouse, man, Temu, they've got good deals. But if you
I
smoke
don't
meat,
know.
clean guns, work on cars, nitro gloves are never the wrong answer. I think in the
Oh,
gun
yeah.
industry, or just we'll say dude industries.
Yeah.
That'd be a Pat
You can't.
McNamara, okay, or
Don't do
basic
it.
dude stuff.
Don't do it.
Nitro gloves. That's,
He's gonna come after
get
you
nitro
legally.
gloves for your basic dude. Probably. So for you, Christmas morning, you're waking up. What do you want to see under the tree, Craig? What could Santa, bring for you this year that would just be like, all right.
If what money's no option, like is this just like a complete hypothetical?
Yeah, man, like you wrote your letter to Santa, you saved a school bus of children from falling off a cliff. You
Okay.
helped every old lady cross the street. Like your karma has set you up. You are on the nice list. If you're like, hey, Santa, I know that I put a bear trap out for you when I was like 10. Sorry. But you wake up Christmas morning, you go downstairs, your kids let you sleep in. What's under the tree that's just going to blow your mind?
An Atlas Apollo.
Ooh, that's some
Yeah. I'd love to have one of those.
cool gun.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Oh yeah.
Like I still feel like you would have problems with it, so you just hate it after 6 months.
Probably.
I feel like there's an Apollo owner that would be like, I love this gun. It's never failed me. And you'd meet that guy and you'd be like, well, mine doesn't work. All right. So gun wise, you did get a smoker. So you took care of that. You're getting up there in years. So you got your Apollo, you're going to be out shooting copious amounts of 9mm. You got your smoker.
Oh, yeah.
What is like, I don't know. I don't think I really talked about it, but you've got a pretty cool family. You got little kids and,
Yeah.
you're like a well-to-do, happy-go-lucky guy. So what are you buying for your family that maybe, will turn the tide and they'll let you go shoot a little bit more this year? What, we always talk about what we want, but what do gun guys buy their families for Christmas?
Well, I got lucky this year. So got a really cool wife. We both agreed this is now. Now this might change in like 2 days.
We have 10 days.
But
Yeah,
right now we both
it's December 15th when they're filming this. We have 10 days till Christmas. Like,
we both agreed to not buy gifts for each other. So, like I said, that's subject to change.
Really?
We all know that. Yeah, we'll see.
That's a trap.
We'll see what happens.
I'm sorry, that's a trap. Like, you'd better be planning a contingent plan there.
But if I turn the phone around, like we bought my daughter, she's got like a bicycle and like a 24-volt car. I mean, they both got all kind. Now, I could kind of skimp because obviously, we have like a 10-month-old, so they're not going to care what you really buy them. They're just there. But yeah, my 3-year-old, she's got all kind of junk to entertain herself. But the benefit to it is like, I know a lot of people aren't privy to this. Having a home range, it makes that life a lot easier. So not having to drive like 30, 40 minutes down the road. So, but at the end of the day, I got a cool wife. I mean, I'm sure sometimes it aggravates her, but she understands why I do what I do. She understands that I enjoy it. And also too, she's kind of gauged interest in competing as well at some point in time. So that's the other aspect is, and it might be a family thing. I don't know. Maybe, I'm not going to force it on my daughter, but I would love for her. I've already bought like an Airsoft 2011. So maybe when she gets a little older, I can kind of set up some stages.
It doesn't work either.
Affair. No, it probably doesn't. But, dude can dream, can he?
Man, you know what? So the Aces virtual shooting, simulators, I think those are great. A buddy of mine, Daniel, who works at Second Caliber, they do the Tactical Playground HQ. So there was like, I think Johnny Wynn is the main influencer there. He's got like this Asian stick he does. They got into shooting just doing the Ace virtual stuff, which I think is super cool. And if that breaks someone into shooting, I'm all for it,
I've got one and I've used it. I find myself doing more dry fire still than utilizing that. I think the platform, it has a lot of benefits, but I think what a lot of people do is because it's VR, like people who take it seriously, it's going to benefit them. But a lot of people, what they'll do is instead of treating it like something that will complement my firearms training, it starts, kind of yielding away from that, and then it becomes a video game. So in the right context, that's a great training tool. Like when I used it, like visual processing speed and stage planning, that's where it truly shines. But yeah, it definitely has some benefit. It is cool. It's probably one of the only VR things that I've used that has not made me motion sick.
I've kind of struggled, I've done it a few times and I get it, but I see guys that started out like really good at airsoft shooting that, it's all they did at airsoft, and they put a gun in their hand and they're like, man, they were light years ahead. So the Ace virtual shooting thing I think is super cool. So that's another gift idea I think for people that, that have like the Oculuses from Meta and all that, which I think is cool. Dry fire I still like dry fire because it's the gun, it's your kit, it's your holster, and just
there's a company. It's hopefully I remember it right. I want to shout at him. It's S2E3. I think there's a lot of it going on, but with the advent of 3D printers, I wish I had it with me. I should have brought it. I just didn't think about it. But it's a whole, like, it takes, in my opinion, and it kind of takes dry fire to another level. Like, I have them sitting over here, like those Ben Stoker cardboard. You have 6 that are different sizes, but this is all 3D printed.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can put hard cover, so you can create your own stages with this whole 3D printed dry fire kit. And this dude here, like, when everyone else is wanting like $200+ for 3D printed parts, this guy, he's making a whole, and you got different kits you can buy, but it's like $90-something. So it's got all kind of stuff in it. So it's a great idea, and they're magnetic, man. He's got his own stand, so you could like make your own stages in your house if you want to. So that would be pretty cool. If somebody's like serious into shooting, is that AC3D whole kit of dry fire for it's all 3D printed. It's pretty neat.
That'd be something I definitely, because I saw you posted that in,
Yeah.
me being the cheap guy that I am, I've always used like light switches in my garage,
Yeah.
or, you just find like, random cans. I like that because it gives you the sight presentation, that you would find on the range, whether you're competing or, it's, your 60% IPSC, 100%. These are just like scaled down versions of them. I'll post a link to this in the comments because it's a cool system that I think gets people into it. I was at in Orlando this year at it's the Blue August Writers Conference, and I don't remember the company's name, and I apologize for that. But they actually had like a CO2 conversion system for your guns that you put it in
Cool
like
fire.
a Glock or a 1911. Yeah, those guys, and I like that thing because and it had lasers, so there's reactive laser targets. So even the guys, Mantis, you could use it with that and get recoil, the gun, the heft of it, everything was there. It is CO2, so after it drains, you kind of get sluggish action like you'd with an airsoft. But I think it's cool that these training tools have kind of developed the way they have, that we get a little bit closer without spending ammo. 9mm is still not super
Yeah.
cheap, but it gets you
Yeah.
to the range of doing that. So yeah, I think the target system, the cool fire, another great gift ideas for shooters, especially as the winter months set in, because Craig, what are we be doing when
Yeah.
it's 30 degrees outside?
Not going outside, I can tell you that, because I flipping hate cold.
Yeah. No, that's why I moved to the South. Yeah. I think we've covered quite a bit. And, for you, competition shooter, a guy who takes a little bit more seriously, you've helped out with like, local church security groups. The OK shooter was always, my goal was here to make guns accessible to everyone, whether you were the guy that just bought guns because you liked them, or you're a guy that was shooting a lot because you're a serious competition shooter. So what's something, say I'm the average gun guy, I'm not really big into self-defense or even like competition. What's something you would drop on, someone like that to maybe get them up the steps a little bit higher? Not pushing them, but like, hey, come up. It's almost like you're at the lake and you're like, hey, the water's warmer over here. Like, just dip your toes in. What would you tell someone like that
Yeah.
to kind of, just keep pushing them along?
Biggest thing I see in this industry is and I'm gonna try to stay generic, I don't, but it's training. If you own a firearm, like, and there's a disparity, right? I think YouTube, it has been a good tool. I've actually had, my buddies, they use me as AI in some of their classes, assistant instructor. And some of these people, you ask them, you're like, where'd you learn to do some of this kind of stuff? And like, YouTube. And on one side, okay, cool, that worked out for you. And on the other side, you're like, no, don't ever do that again, because that's terrible advice. It's really training. It's like it's always the garbage in, garbage out mentality. Is like, if you want to get better, there are venues and avenues to source proper information. Like, if you don't have the money to pay for, one-on-one instruction, there are good videos out there on YouTube, but seriously vet the people that you're taking this advice from. Like, if they're not actively taking classes themselves, if they're not actively competing, if they have the mindset like, well, this is why you want to learn it because this is the way I've always done it, or because I said so, those are not the people you need to be taking advice from, period.
I've always kind of had the mindset with training that, sometimes, it can get repetitive, but it's always better to have the tool, the resource, even though you may not need it. So learn something, put it in the tool bag. It may not be applicable to you, your body mechanics, your shooting style, but you have it, and it's like working on your house or your car. You see that one mechanic that can get to the spark plug that no one else can, because he learned it one time from someone. He saw someone, daisy chain 10 sockets and extensions together to get to that spark plug. And I've always said that with firearms training. Like, sometimes you may see stuff that, it's kind of ridiculous. Make sure it's safe, vet your instructors, but every now and again, like, oh man, am I ever going to need to reload with my weak hand by tucking it in my belt with my shoe because I lost it? I don't know. But I always look at training too is, man, if you don't have to train to be a Navy SEAL. You could want to train to
No.
be a rimfire bullseye shooter. You could train to want to be a PSL expert, a guy that can just dial them in. Whatever shooting
Well,
discipline you get into, trust me, guys, there's
yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, this, I can get fact checked as much as I want to on this. Like when SEALs, when Green Berets, when dudes up at Delta, who do you think they contract to teach them how to shoot? Now, they don't teach them tactics, but, it's GM level shooters at USPSA. That's who they're contracting to teach them how to, because who else is better shooters than civilian? Your long range dudes, like they know how to run a gun. They might not have the tactics behind it, but shooting it and executing, they get it.
I think I was really blown away the first time I went to the CMP national matches. And there's these like 1911 shooters. It was service pistol, and they're shooting in a goofy stance. It's not anything we would use like in a self defense. But man, those guys knew their gun. They knew their stance. It's almost like a golfer. He'd walk up, he'd get in his stance, and he'd pull the gun up, and he'd just be like, nope, come back down, readjust himself, put back up, and then he'd at 50 yards shooting a group that I could only dream of with a handgun. So it's the fundamentals are there. Finding people that help you optimize those fundamentals in your situation, I think that's important. Yeah. We've talked about, Christmas lists. We've talked about some training, as the holiday seasons wrap up, Christmas morning, all right, you want an Atlas. I don't think that's going to happen for you, but what would be the other end of it? If you opened up a gun on Christmas Day that just made you just, like you'd have to look at your wife and kids or your friends and be like, man, I really appreciate this. What would that be? Like if someone surprised you with one, you're like you sons of guns.
Say, as we're talking, an aim point for this rifle. Before I click buy here in a minute.
Oh man, that would be it. You would buy it and then someone would buy it for you. My running joke this year is just buying people 30 super carry ammo. Like I would buy, like for you, like Craig, I would buy you a case of 30 super carry. And you would just be like, what am I going to do with this? Why would he give this to me?
Yeah.
So, we've been here for about an hour. It's a good episode. So Craig, if people want to find you on the internet, where are they going to find you?
My Instagram handle is cmyers1_. It's pretty simple. I didn't do anything, crazy or nothing like that. It's Craig Myers, C Myers.
Yeah. And I'm telling you guys, like follow Craig. He's posting some legit content, and it's one of those, like you said earlier in the episode, he's one of those guys who doesn't have the biggest following, man, but he knows some people. He's always posting cool stuff. He's colorblind, I think, when it comes to flat dark earth, because any of his gun builds don't have,
of course,
a single matching shade of FDE. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Craig. It's been a great chat. Some good insights. Hopefully we didn't give off anyone bad advice. And if you want to shoot a 2011, just know that Craig is going to be the future you. It's like, dang it. Like, the Powderhorn podcast is dropped every other Sunday, Gundy. We're bi-weekly now for 2026. And we are thankful for our partners that help us make the show possible. All of our friends over at Moultrie Products, our friends, and some of the best cleaning products in the business from Real Avid, our friends over at Caldwell Shooting, great targets, great innovative products. And can't forget about our friends over at SDS Arms. They've got products from a lot of different great companies. And make sure you guys check out all the other shows in the Okayest Podcast Network, from Okayest Hunter, Okayest Cook, Okayest Fisher. If you're just a regular person that loves what they do, I'm pretty sure we have a podcast for you. Until next time, guys, this is Jared. Craig, thank you for coming on the show. And, if you're going to the range, do what Craig does and blame the gun.
Of course. Yeah. It always works.
It's always the gun's fault. It's never.
Oh, yeah.